All right, hello once again. Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 class, which is Web Development Technologies, I've been going through a series of videos I'm creating based on the Mozilla Developer Network Learning the Web series that they have out there, and I'm talking about HTML and in particular tables. Now, before I finish up, because I have nothing else to say about what they have here, but I am going to go, and I may be jumping on the toes in the next section, but I've created my own table, and I want to put a couple of other things in here. First of all, the border, this could have been put in CSS, but I just try to keep this simple. All right, so a lot of times what you'll see in here is you'll have what's called a T-head tag, which says this is all the stuff that's in the heading. All right, so that's my heading. Let's see, right there. So I can finish that up. And then after your heading comes your T body. Okay. Now, that's everything else I have in here because I don't have any kind of footer. But I could, if I wanted to, I could put in a footer. So that's T foot, and I'm just going to leave it blank. The other thing that I'm going to add in here is I'm going to add a caption. And I'm going to put in here caption, Missouri Governors 2000 to present. Okay, and let's see. Other than that, this right here, I don't think it's really going to look any different, which is totally fine. So I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to go into here and put that in. And there's my caption, Missouri Governors 2000 to present. It doesn't look any different other than that. Now, so why did I even show you this? Because what I'm doing is I'm adding more of a semantic nature to the table. I am letting basically the system know in what I have done here. I'm letting it know that this is my header section, that this is my footer section, all right, and that this is my body section. Now, I am going to I'll try putting in a footer here. I don't know exactly what this is even going to look like, but I'll just put a table row in here, and I'll put in created by Jeff Scott, ampersand copy 2021. I don't even know what that'll do. I don't typically create footers when I make these. So let's look. And it actually put the footer, and I spelled my name wrong, isn't that nice? It actually put the footer up at the top. I didn't realize it would do that, but one thing I'd like to do is at least spell my name correctly here. Okay, in fact, I'm going to just leave this off right here. I'm not going to put anything in here, but you saw what it looked like. All right, let's jump into the next section, because what I'm doing right now actually blends into the next section here, the advanced features and accessibility. All right, so it says they're going to look at some more advanced features of HTML tables, things like captions, which I've already shown you, summaries, grouping into the table head, body, and footer, which I already showed you, and looking at some accessibilities. So the caption is right here. All right, it says you should put it below the opening table tag, which is what I did. All right, the caption, as it says, is meant to contain a description of the table contents. Notice this is useful for readers wishing to get a quick idea of the table. All right. It says here, but particularly for blind users, rather than have a screen reader read out the contents, the user can rely on the caption and then decide whether or not they want to see more or hear more of the table. Again, the caption should be placed directly beneath the table tag. All right. The summary attribute can also be used on the table to provide a description. This is also read out loud by screen readers. We'd recommend using the caption element, however, instead, as summary is deprecated. So in other words, what this should say is if we go back to our tag list that we had before, and we look in here for summary, it says define something visible. I don't know if it's different, if that's the same as the one for the table or not. Doesn't look like it. But if you do want more, there's table, there's the table body, table data, table footer, table header, T-head for table head, TR for table row, etc. All right. And have yourself a look-see through that. So they have you add a caption. I've already done this. All right. Next, adding structure. Let's do a little bit of an explanation because I rushed through this kind of quickly. So as it says there, as your tables get more complex in nature, it's useful to give them more of a structural definition. One way of doing this, as they mention here, is by using the T-head, the T-foot, and the T-body, which, as they mention here, allows you to mark up header, footer, and body sections of a table. Notice they don't make this any more accessible to screen reader users. So visually, hopefully you saw that it didn't look any different, but they're considered more proper for styling and for layout. All right, it says acting as hooks for adding CSS. So if you want to just, for example, I could take everything that was in my T-body section, and if I wanted to make that a different color or whatever, it would be easier to do that. All right, so the T-head element must wrap the part of the table that is the header, usually the first row containing the column headings. It says it's not necessary, but almost always that's the way it's going to be. The T-foot needs to wrap the part that is the footer. All right, now it used to be you had to put in the T-head, then the T-foot, then the T-body. I don't believe that's necessary anymore. All right, I believe you can put it in any order you want. Now, could I be wrong? Of course I could. So let's look, and let's grab that T-foot that we had in here before. So I had that. Let's grab all of this. Let's move it, and let's put it right after the T-head, but before the T-body. And let's see if by doing that, I don't think it's going to change anything. I think it's still going to appear at the top of the page, but I could be wrong. So I think this is going to still be right here as you see it in blue. And you can see that it is. All right. So as it says, the body needs to wrap the other parts of the table that aren't in the header or in the footer. All right, T-body is always included in every table, even if you don't specify it. So I'm not going to add the header and the footer because I've already done that. Again, we could come in here if we wanted to, and we could add some CSS. I'm laying off on adding the CSS just because of the fact that we are going to be putting in CSS in the whole next section that we're going to be going through. All right, so if you follow that, this is the table that you're going to create. Would that have been better than the one that I've done? Hey, draw your own conclusion. That's totally fine. All right, next, nesting tables. When you nest tables, you have a table within a table. So you'll notice, here's my one table. This is the entire table. But within that table, we have yet, come on, another table, which is okay to do, but it can end up looking a little squirrely, for lack of better words, and it can be hard to work with. Now, am I saying never use nested tables? Of course not. First of all, I can't make that determination, but I would say that's probably something you want to hold off on until you get some more experience using these. All right, tables for visually impaired users. It says, let's recap briefly on how we use data tables. Again, for tabular data. All right. Now, could you look at this and very quickly figure out what everything was? I don't know. Notice it's items sold, so that helps. I can tell that all the items that are here are clothing items, and the items that are here are accessory items. I can tell that these are probably cities in Belgium and probably cities in the Netherlands, and how many of each were sold. All right. It says that's fine, but it says, what if you cannot make those visual associations? So for instance, what if I was blind? What if I was a younger person and just didn't understand all that stuff? As mentioned, visually impaired people often use a screen reader to read out the information to them. This is not a problem when you're reading plain text, but when it interprets a table, it's using whatever is built into the software, so that can be harder to figure out exactly what it is you're trying to talk about. All right, so it says there, screen readers will identify all headers and make them and use them to make programmatic associations. Well, that's something that you might want to use then. All right. We've already added the TH elements. Scope. A new topic for this article, as they mention here, is the scope attribute, which can be added to the table header element to tell screen readers exactly what cells the header is for. So notice that. It says this is for the purchase column, for the location column, for the date column, etc. All right, and then it says each row then could have its own header defined like this. All right. Screen readers will then recognize the markup. This is becoming, for those of you listening to this is becoming more and more important. And I've often said this to the students in my class, and that is, hey, it doesn't matter if a person is blind, all right, or partially blind, deaf, or partially deaf. If you want them to get to your site and you're selling a product, you don't really have any idea of this anyway. So let's say, for example, that you're selling an item of clothing. It just popped into my head. Let's say you're selling scarves, all right, and they're meant to be worn in winter time. So they're woolen scarves. Do I care if the person, if I'm the one manufacturing these and selling these, do I care whether the person is blind, deaf, or not blind or deaf? It's not that, when I say care, it's not going to matter in the way I'm selling these, is what I'm saying. All right. So finally, as it says there, as an alternative to using scope is to use ID and headers attributes. You can add a unique ID to each TH, and that's what we've done here. You can add headers attributes to each TD. So what are we saying? Well, notice location, haircut, date haircut. All we're doing here is making this easier, or hopefully making it easier for anyone to look at and understand. All right? Okay. I've actually spent more time on this than I was planning on spending. Now, with the structuring thing that's in here, they work with this. I think this would be another, so this is the live example. Okay, this would be another one which would be great for you to try on your own. Okay, finally, this is what we've gone through in the module here. So we went through very quickly some table basics and some advanced features. All right, so I would suggest, if you want more on this, I don't see anything else in here, but a great place is to go back to where I was, is to go into W3 schools, and you could even start by going, somewhere in here. These are the tags, but let's just say W3 schools tables. All right, there's HTML tables. I would just start going through the table listing that's in here. You're going to find much of it is very repetitive as far as the stuff I've already gone through. There'll be some stuff, of course, they go into in more depth and breadth of coverage than I have. All right, that's all I wanted to go through, so I'm pretty much finished with this particular lesson. Okay, so what I will jump into next then, so we've now gone through the getting started with the web, and we've gone through all of the HTML structuring the web. All right, so I'm going to close this one as well. Okay, and now I'm going to next be jumping into the CSS styling the web. So we'll hit on that shortly.